All right, everybody, it is 6 p.m. Welcome to our January organizational meeting. My name is Jeff Beal. I'm the superintendent for Jackson Public Schools, and this is the only meeting where I actually kick things off. This is our organizational meeting, and so what we'll do is we'll go through the roll call, the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll get our agenda approved, and then I'll move on to election of officers. And then once we get a president established, I'll hand the meeting over to them. So if I could ask everybody to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much. Ms. Oxley, if we could get a roll call, please.
Ms. Simonetti? Here. Mr. Dobies? Mr. Reddy?
Here.
Ms. Acton?
Sorry, now it does. I had ready. Zuba help me. Thank you.
Ms. Sharp?
Here.
And Ms. Hamilton? Yep, and I got, okay.
Here.
Sorry.
All right, if I could ask for a motion for the approval of the agenda, please.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and support. Is there any discussion on the agenda? Ms. Simonetti?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to remove item number 9, action item 24-25-44, and to bring it back to this table at the end of this calendar year, superintendent evaluation schedule. Based on the wording from the Michigan Association of School Boards, we are not able to take action on this item at this time because we have new evaluators sitting at the table. We can consider this for the 2026 calendar year, but we are unable to take action on this at this time.
I would just imagine at the end of the year, we would, the next president or the superintendent would figure out when to put this onto the agenda for discussion. Oh.
And that's how I read it too. The law changed back in, it became effective July 1. It allowed for, much like our teacher evaluations, it allowed for superintendent to be evaluated on an every other year basis if they've had multiple years of effective or what was highly effective prior to July 1. But as Ms. Simonetti pointed out, the key in that is that as long as there are no new evaluators. So as I read that, any year that there's an election year where new members come on board, we would not be able to have the superintendent opt out of or rather opt out of an evaluation year that year. But if the board stayed the same, so as Ms. Simonetti pointed out, a year from now, we would have that option. So I believe I heard a motion and a second. We've had discussion.
We had some discussion, some more.
All right.
So I'll just add that the reason why we tabled this was because we did want to allow the incoming folks to be able to have an opportunity to weigh in on a superintendent eval. So I'm not resisting this. I would be in support of taking this off. But again, that was why we put it on this month, because we wanted them to have opportunity to weigh in on this.
Any other discussion? All right. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the agenda is amended as called. All right, on to the organizational portion of the
Sir.
meeting.
Superintendent, I think you have to go back to the main motion now. The agenda was amended. Now we have to vote to approve the agenda.
I apologize. I thought it was amended and then I'm along for the ride. If we could, make a motion to approve the amended agenda, removing article or item 2425-44, which is the action item on superintendent evaluation schedule.
So moved.
Support.
Support. Okay, one more time, any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The agenda is amended. Thank you very much. On to the organizational portion of the meeting, the election of officers, and the first officer position that we will fill will be that of president. So I am seeking, are there any nominations for the office of president?
I would like to nominate Shalonda Hunt for the office of President of Jackson Public School Board.
I have a nomination by Marilyn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Are there any other nominations? All right. Any discussion?
I have some discussion.
Marilyn?
So the reason I wanted to nominate Shalonda Hunt for the school board president, she was appointed to be a member of the Michigan Association of School Boards. She received Award of Merit from the Michigan Association of School Boards. She attained a Level 3 award of distinction for board member certification. She's held the position of vice president for JPS School Board 2 years consecutively. I have personally witnessed her ability to network with other school board members in other school districts and at the state level. She has a commitment to learning and implementing ways to make this district a great place to learn.
Any other discussion?
Yes, some more discussion. So I won't be in support of this. I realize that Shalonda will likely be our president, but I will not be in support of this because Shalonda, in my opinion, has not shown leadership abilities. To me, she's more of a follower, being puppeted around. I do not see her innovative, creative, just a leader. I don't see her being a leader in this space, and I feel like JPS needs a leader. I don't know that we necessarily have more than one at this table. But again, I wouldn't be in support of it for that reason. I really would like to see JPS be able to do something different and be in status quo and always in alignment with policies and interpretation of policies and ideologies that do not move us forward. It's just not something that I see in Shalonda, so I would not be supporting that. Her.
All right. If there's no other discussion, I'll ask for a vote, please. Roll call, Ms. Oxley?
Ms. Hamilton,
No.
Ms. Simonetti,
Yes.
Mr. Dobies, Mr. Reddy,
Yes.
Ms. Acton,
Yes.
Ms. Sharp,
Yes.
and Ms. Hunt.
Yes.
All right. Congratulations, Ms. Hunt, on being the president of the school board for the year 2025. And I'm going to turn that over to you, and you'll get to call for, I'm going to do the oath for everybody at the same time. I'll let you seek nominations for vice president.
I would like to thank the board for your support. I intend to lead by example and honor the voices. We are a team, and I will have an active listening ear to each of your concerns. I have a commitment to represent my community, my constituents, and I look forward to moving forward and leveraging my leadership skills. Student achievement is my priority. I want to take a deeper dive in looking at our test scores and seeing how we can be more transparent in our communication and in our way in which we support everyone that is at the table. So it's not just the community, it's our teachers, it's our faculty, it's our staff, and everyone that is represented here today. So I appreciate your support, and I look forward to working with each of you. Thank you kindly. Well, as we move forward, we need to decide on the rest of our office positions. So we have the vice president, the secretary, and the treasurer, and I am going to present a slate and ask for the board's support. Derek Dobies, vice president, Cheryl Simonetti, secretary, and Marilyn Acton as the treasurer.
Support.
Support.
Any discussion?
Some discussion. I'm going to be a no on this one as well. Like I said, I know that they're going to get elected, but, you know, it won't be because of me. We really need leadership that is focused on education, not politicians, not individuals who sat here at the table before and, again, been status quo. You know, not just, we need people who are willing to question, who are critical thinkers, who are individuals who are really focused on education and moving it forward, not just in word, but in deed. And what we've seen here heretofore is that we've had individuals who are comfortable with politicking, comfortable with smoke and mirrors, and we're just not moving forward in that because of that. So again, it's going to be a no, though I know they're going to get elected, you know, but it won't be because of me.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Me, opposed.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All right, if I can borrow everybody, I'll do the oaths of office real quick. Let me steal you for a second, everybody. You will raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state my name. Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will abide by the bylaws, rules and regulations of this board, and shall faithfully discharge the duties of my office as president to the best of my knowledge and ability. Thank you very much for your service. Can we get real quick, Chris would like one more opportunity.
The whole board. Right.
Oh, thank you. All right. All right. Ooh, look at that solid.
All right, we are on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you. Organizational resolutions.
The organizational resolutions are in your board packet. You've seen them before. They detail out a schedule of time and place of our regular meetings. So you can see the dates listed there. They follow a pattern of the third Tuesday. I think there might be two alternates, if I'm correct. I think, is it just one?
July.
Just July
July.
22nd, and that's due to the July 4th holiday, as I recall.
Madam President, move approval of the organizational resolutions.
Legal advertisement, and then we also have the name of each committee and charge. We run somebody for the member of the School Board Association, Jackson Parks and Rec Department, board committees, finance, policy, and district improvement. If you wish to serve on any of those, all you need to do is let Ms. Hunt know, and she will reach out. We'll approve our organizational memberships to the Michigan Association of School Boards, the Jackson Lunch Rotary, corporate, the Jackson Greater Chamber of Commerce, and the Jackson County NAACP. Delegation of election duties goes to the Secretary of the Board of Education, who then designates the superintendent or designee to help handle with those facilitate those needs. And then we approve our annual retainer contract with Brendan Beer, the law firm of Abbott Thompson, Malden, Parker, Beer, and Lindsay. And it is a recommendation of the administration to adopt the organizational resolutions as presented.
We have a motion on the floor. by Derek.
Support.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Discussion?
Any discussion?
Any discussion?
Similar to previous years, I think previously the contract was not included. It doesn't look like it was included for Brendan. Has anything changed since last year? Okay.
Exactly, the same contract has been for 15 years.
Okay.
So more discussion. I'm a yes on everything but F, and I know we can't pull it out, so because we can't pull it out at this point, I'm gonna be a no, but only because of F. And Brendan Beer and his organization, I do not feel have the best interest of Jackson Public Schools at heart, so I cannot support them. But like I said, I'd be a yes on all the other ones, but because they're all together, it's gonna have to be a no for me.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes, opposed.
Thank you. Motion passes.
So every year, we must designate our financial institution where we have our funds deposited. At this time, Comerica is our main depository bank. We get charged approximately $40,000 annually for monthly service fees, which is made up more than plenty with the interest that we receive from the accounts. I think last year, we earned like over $700,000 of interest, so the fees are paid for. Nothing's really changed. It's already budgeted for in the 24-25 budget. So at this time, we would recommend approving the following: Comerica, County National, Huntington, True Community Credit Union, Baker Tilly, My Class, Southern Michigan Bank Trust, and PFM as our banks of deposit. And some of these institutions we use for investing. Some are used to hold our bond funds. Like I mentioned, Comerica is the main depository institution for the district's general funds, so on and so forth.
Any discussion?
Move approval of the described depository institutions as recommended.
Support.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Up next is the legal reference note. Again, this is more of a formality because it is exactly the same pretty much every year, although we've got some new board members and we'll welcome them aboard. The revised school code requires school boards to adopt a legal reference note. This means our legal name, Jackson Public Schools. We are a general power school under the Michigan law. And Board of Education is comprised of 7 members who are elected for terms of 6 years. Members holding office as of January 1st include Keisha Hamilton, whose term expires December 31st of 2026, Shalonda Hunt, whose board term expires December 31st, 2026, Marilyn Acton, expires December 31st, 2028, Derek Dobies, again the same, 31st, 2028, and then welcome Sue Beretti, Elena Sharp, and Cheryl Simonetti, all with board terms that expire on December 31st, 2030. Members of the Board of Education are elected in even years in the November election. It is the recommendation of administration to adopt the legal reference note as presented.
So moved.
Support. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. At this time, we will move to the superintendent's report.
All right. Welcome, everybody. It is School Board Appreciation Month, and as is tradition in Jackson Public Schools, we purchase books for the library and media center in the name of the school board. These books are placed around the district when we seek those titles out from the individual schools. There are, I want to say 14. Tiger Can't Sleep, Shuri, a Black Panther novel, Balloons Over Broadway, Hidden Gem, The Yellow Bus, Cesaria Feels the Beat, our Notes for Living on Planet Earth, All the World, Fable Haven series, Stacy's Extraordinary Words, The Trouble with Spiders, Buffalo Fluffalo, I Want My Hat Back, The Eyes and the Impossible, Eagle Drums Together, and X Marks the Spot are all books that were being donated to our libraries in honor of our school board. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we have a couple of new members today. So Ms. Simonetti, welcome back. Suba and Elena, welcome to the school board. Thank you very much, everybody, for your service. We are in luck today. Brant Russell, where you disappeared to on me, Brant, is bringing, he worked today in the kitchen, as I recall. Brant, you want to? All right, I'm gonna turn it over to you for a minute, and I'll let you kind of share with everybody what we're into.
Hello, everybody. I'm Brian Renz. I'm from Taher. I'm the director of culinary programs for them. We're based out of Minneapolis. We've been a partner with Jackson for a long time. I've been coming intermittently to Jackson since the early 2000s, so I'm pretty familiar with it. Brant and I have become very, very good friends. I've helped with a number of ambassador dinners and did a lot of caterings, Christmas parties. I recognize this spot without the bookcases, but so yeah, it's fun. One of the things that we do that we want to bring to the students is international food. It is becoming very, very important, I think, in the schools with all the diversity. Matter of fact, in October of next year, the USDA is going to have foods from around the world. Taher has been doing this since 2002. We've done a number of things. As a matter of fact, if any of you were at the high school in October, we did a night market pop-up of foods from Taiwan and the Philippines, and we did it for a 3-week period, and it was very popular. Then today, we're doing something from a trip we did a year ago from Slovenia and Croatia. It's called Savepe, which is basically, they call it a minced meat sausage, patty, burger, whatever. There's lamb, pork, and beef in it. And then it has Georgian spices because it's a part of the same area as like Ukraine and Hungary and Russia and whatever. So we try to do this. Looks like some of you have gotten the Taher in the classroom, where we did our first publication with the Taiwanese and Philippines, and we went to all the elementary schools and we talked about that, and we made a sample of a dish that was popular in the Philippines. And I was surprised how many Philippines are here in Jackson. And a lot of the kids were very excited to have some of the food there. So it was really fun. We were going to, but because of being out, we're doing the same thing again this year. There's a recipe in there that they can take home. We worked with them and they made it together. And then this particular dish that we're doing is what we would do. So like I would go in there, do the class, and then we would do the chef on display, which is a sample of what you're having today. And it really is exciting because we get, I don't know if ownership is the right word, but when they've seen me and I'm teaching them how to cook, and then an hour later they're coming down to lunch, they really participate. Their participation levels go up quite a bit. And we were really happy. Speaking of participation levels, when we did the night market the first week, we had increased our lunch numbers by over 200 people, which that's pretty good. That's a nice participation level. So, but we've been traveling around the world since 2002. I've been very fortunate, and we have done a lot of the things here. Brant went on one of the Chef Council trips with us when we were in Germany. Was that it, Brant? And we did, I forget what it's called, but we did it here. But it was like a huge crepe, like a 16-inch crepe, and then we put some different meats in it. Do you remember the name of it? So we don't remember the name of it. We've slept since then. So we always try every year to do something. I am one of, I know that my colleague Chris Murray's done pig roasts here a couple of times. And then another colleague, Chef Tony, comes and does periodic things. I think his last one was a Mongolian barbecue. So we want to be a part. We just really, really thank the Jackson community for allowing us to do this, and I hope that you enjoy it. Okay?
Thank you very much, Brant. Thank you for working today, and Chef Brian, thank you very much for cooking for us. We are excited for that. We really want to acknowledge Taher as our partner. Obviously, they've been our vendor for a very long time, and as you heard, we do have guest chefs and international food that comes to our students' table multiple times a year, and so we are thrilled to be able to say thank you again. Up next, I would invite Julie Baker, if you would give us an update on elementary curriculum and kind of where we stand with the federal programs.
Thank you. I think the biggest feat of all is that food is still warm with the temperature out there today. So it's fantastic. And it smells wonderful. We are in our second year of Open Court, which is the new reading series that we adopted not this year, but last year, 2 years ago. And we are, we'll have additional professional development where we'll have trainers that will be coming back into the schools this winter to work with grade level teams of teachers. So that's continuing. We're in our first year of implementation for iReady, which is our math program. And so we've had 2 different training opportunities, actually 3. We'll have another one where they will come into the school and work with grade levels. So they'll be on the ground, answering questions, going into classrooms as needed. More of that incorporated deep and ongoing learning for teachers. And we'll be doing some surveying to see if that's meeting their needs or what additional things we need to do. So that's going really well. We're looking forward to seeing what the results of these new programs are going to be for our students. We also, because we moved to iReady for our math curriculum, we are using that as our assessment. So that has replaced NWEA for our assessment for kindergarten through 5th grade, which is wonderful because we could take the assessment results and then we can align it with the curriculum in math and also the learning platform that students are using. So if they struggled on something on the assessment, we can move right into planning for them and putting them into small groups. The alignment is wonderful. And we're really confident about that alignment also with the content standards for the state of Michigan. So in a couple of years, when we've had some time to, continue to work with different grade levels of kids, we should be starting to see some major results there. In addition to that, we had I waited to we waited to want to present on this meeting that we had regarding our partnership status with the state of Michigan, because we wanted to. The final piece of that was the school index report, and that data was finally unembargoed recently. And so I'm really excited to share some of the results. And so you have a packet that I provided you with. And I want to kind of go through what represents the hard work of dozens and dozens of people in the district to really rise to the challenge of this partnership work. And so just to refresh your memory, in 2022, we were designated as a partnership district, and more than one school in our district was designated as a CSI school, our comprehensive support and improvement school. And so that led our district to being identified as a partnership district, and we had to do a 3-year partnership agreement. So we just recently, on November 7th, finished up our presentation that we had to make because we're at our 18-month benchmark. And so it was a wonderful meeting. We had our entire MCT, or multi-tiered, well, I'm going to say MTSS core team that met, and they helped to present along with our people from our cabinet and others. And it was a wonderful presentation. It was really, really encouraging to see the work that had been done. So far, of the things that, if you move farther down this thing, there were things that are required. So we did our comprehensive needs assessment. We finished the agreement. We have completed 18 months worth of the work. And we've included, it wasn't a requirement, but what we decided to do as a team was that we didn't, even though not every school in the district was identified, we wanted to make sure that we incorporated and worked in partnership with the entire district, because we knew that we could all move forward together. We want to make these changes consistently throughout the district, which I think was something that MDE was very impressed with. And I'm impressed with us too. I think that that's been a push right from the center with our team, that this shouldn't just be a one school solution. And so what we're doing, our biggest push is that all of our goals are grounded in multi-tiered systems of support. We have an academic goal, a non-academic goal, or we have areas, and we also have goals under staff and student retention. And so we presented those. We looked at those goals that we're going to have in place by August of 2025. And then we participated in this conference to kind of show exactly what they did. So what I'd like to do is kind of go through, if you flip to the next page, you can see that we had 14 benchmarks that we needed to meet. We had benchmarks around student, parent, and staff surveys, where we had to do the survey and then create an action plan around those results. That was met. PBIS inventory, so positive behavior intervention and support, TFIs, which they're an inventory that we have to complete to look at with how much fidelity we are implemented PBIS. We did those inventories in all of our schools. We've done them multiple times now, and we've got action plans that have been put in place, and we're continuing to work through those action plans, add to them as needed, and we're crossing things off as we go. At Lewis, we had goals or benchmarks around state assessments for reading and math. Those were met. For Lewis, we had local assessments in reading and math, benchmarks around those, and those were met. We had a goal or a benchmark to look at our exit interview data and create an action plan. That was met. Another one was to reduce the days of OSS, or out of school suspension. That was not met. Of the 14 benchmarks, that's the only one that wasn't met. That is our number one focus right now because of that. We also had benchmarks around teacher retention. the retention of our long-term teachers and also new teacher retention. And that was, we were already, we were doing better than the state in that area, and our goal was to either continue that or improve it, and we met those. The last thing that we did was a systems review along with an action plan to look at the equity of all of the allocation of resources in our district. We did that, and we created an action plan. That was the next piece of that, and that was met. So you could see there are 14 of them, and you can see exactly what those benchmarks were, and you can see which were met and which were not. We met 13 out of 14. We were really excited about that. Good things are happening. And then there are 3 charts that I would like to draw your attention to. And this information is the same data that was used in order to identify our schools. It's based on our school index scores, and that is something that the state releases annually. They only identify CSI or comprehensive school, comprehensive school for support. They only do that 3 times or every 3 years. So we were identified in 2022. We can't come off that list for any of these schools until we complete this work, which will be in 3 years. So we've got 1 more year to go. But TSI schools are identified every year. So they're identified every year, and they can exit based on making the improvements that are needed. I kind of want to go through what those mean, because I know we've got comprehensive school support, we've got targeted school support. And those are the only types of schools that or identifications that we've had in our district, aside from what are called universal support. And those are schools that have not been identified for any special supports. So those are students that have no identification. So in the first year, this is the year that we became a partnership district, you could see that we had 4 TSI or targeted support schools: Cascades Middle School, our Parkside, Jackson High, and Northeast. And you could see off to the side for those are the way that targeted schools or support schools are identified is because they had groups of students that are historically underperforming. And they, like I said, they are identified each year. They can come off after a year if that has improved. CSI schools, they are identified because if you look at the list of index scores that the state releases for each school based on a number of different data points, they take all of the schools in the state of Michigan, and based on those index scores, they put them on a list. The bottom 5% of those schools, the schools that are scoring in that bottom 5%, are the ones that are identified for comprehensive school support. So on the first page there in 2022, there were 4 schools that were not identified for any support. They're considered universal support schools: Sharp, Dibble, Montessori, and Hunt. So the first year of identification, 3 CSI schools, 4 TSI schools. If you turn to the next page, this is based on index scores from 2023. And you can see what happened that year. We did identify 1 more school. Pathways came on the list as a TSI school because they had students in the economically disadvantaged student group. They were underperforming. But that year, Cascades, Northeast, Jackson High came off the list. They are no longer targeted support schools. So we're watching these fall away over the years. Again, we can't lose the CSI designation for 3 years. We're on the list for 3 years, so that's not going to go away until we have met our targets. And we are well on our way, 13 out of 14 so far. So if you look at the final page, what you'll see is that only the CSI, the comprehensive support schools, remain on the list. The rest of our schools are now universal support schools. Pathways and Parkside both fell off the list this year. We have no more TSI schools in the district. And then John R. Lewis, 4th Street Learning Center, and SEMV, they have another year to go before we're going to be finished with our partnership agreement. But we're very confident that we are going to meet the mark and that we will see them fall off that designation. Are there any questions?
Yes, I have questions. Good
Okay.
job.
Thank you.
first and foremost.
For,
Um,
on behalf of the people that have been
absolutely,
working
yeah.
so hard.
Absolutely, everybody.
Great
Um,
job, Julie.
So question for you.
Yes.
The targeted school identification, or TSI, might
Mhm.
be the wrong,
Yep.
the I. They're not only identified simply because of the student group they're in, but the student group that is being identified as underperforming,
Mhm.
and because they're performing better, we've fallen off the list.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Another question for you. The, going back to the first page, the first page that you gave us?
Yes.
Okay, so I see that in like 13 and 14, I see where you said we're like John Lewis because they started performing better. We fell off the list,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Or we're moving in the right direction. You met those
Mhm.
targets.
Right.
Right.
There were, for each of these, there's an 18-month benchmark
Mhm.
and there's a 30-month benchmark or a 36-month benchmark. So we met that 18-month, but we have a lot of work to do to hit the 36 still. But they're
Question for
working
you.
hard.
Yeah, no, that sounds good, because it looks like these, at least the school
Mhm.
rates, or the reasons why they got the MET final whatever review status is because at the 18-month mark, they have reached their proficiency rates.
Right. They had a proficiency target for 18 months and
Mhm.
another one for 36, and they met their 18-month.
Okay, so the other question I had, so thank you for clarifying that.
Uh-huh.
It looks like some of these, like, for example, number 1,
Mhm.
it looks like what needed to be met at
Mhm.
18 months was an action plan. Am I correct on that?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
They had to, and they have actually done, I think we're finishing up our third TFI. So TFI is, it works like a rubric that
Mhm.
you might give to a student to do a writing prompt or, to look at their writing. And it allows them to self-score. So this allows us to self-assess. And it has multiple prompts and it has to be completed with a PBIS team in the building. So they go through and there's also evidence that they have to collect and there's different things that they have to do, including doing surveys and other things, doing walkthroughs in order to see what their progress is. And then they self-assess themselves. And so we did an initial, and I believe we just finished our third one. And so based on that initial one, they did an action plan. So they keep coming back to the TFI. They look to see how they're doing. They go back to the action plan. They see what has been accomplished. They set new tasks based on the TFI and also the action plan. If they finish something, they go to the next step. And so it's a process that it's continuous improvement.
Sounds good. So it sounds like at the 36-month mark, what
Mhm.
what we're expecting or what we're looking forward to is that
Mhm.
basically the action plan has been fulfilled.
Mhm.
We've kind of gone back and forth. It sounds like you
Yes.
said, all
And that
throughout
we'll-
it.
Yes, and that we'll have I believe it's at least a 70% of that TSI will show, or that TFI will show that those things have been implemented.
Okay.
PBIS implementation.
One more question. Sorry.
yes,
One more
sure.
question for you. The School Improvement Committee, are we planning to have that in action this year?
Oh, yes. Yep, we'll be meeting
Okay.
again.
And I'll get an invite.
Oh, yes, you will.
Thanks.
Yes. Mhm.
Sounds good. Thank you for answering these questions. Good luck. Good work too.
Yes. Thank you on behalf of the committee. It's a lot
What's
of hard work.
TFI?
It is a tiered fidelity inventory. Thank you, and I'm sorry, Marilyn. I try to remember on these acronyms. I'm trying to do a better job. So-
Julie, for the 3 schools remaining in CSI,
Mhm.
for 3 years, you said that is likely to end next year, like at the end of this coming school
Yes.
year?
It is, I have to
Subsequent
look and
school
see
year.
what our actual date is.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's through, 2026. Thank you.
Gotcha, okay.
Julie, I know you said that the math assessment for K through 5 is ready. Is that reading also, did you say?
Yes, actually, we moved to that for reading as well, because we want to look at those two pieces of data together. And we also think that we're going to see a better alignment between that and the M-STEP
And so they're
ultimately.
both in their second year?
This is the first year that we're doing iReady
Okay,
for
great.
both grades, or
Okay.
for both reading and for math, K through 5. So, Julie, you said the number one focus was the one item that hasn't been met. Yes. So that's oh, sorry. So yeah, the suspensions, the absences, and so the 18-month, we didn't meet that benchmark. What's our plan moving forward? Well, new goals? The biggest piece, so we looked at that and we said, we've got to work harder on moving that PBIS forward. And positive behavior intervention and supports, we know that that's going to have an enormous impact on what we're seeing in school. Because what it does is it ultimately, it changes the climate and it changes the climate of the school and the culture of the school. And it changes the focus instead of looking for all the wrong things that you see happening to the right things that are happening. It makes the school a better place, a more inviting place for students to be and for staff. And we also know that what we're doing is we're teaching kids how to be in school. And that's really important right now because a big part of this is it isn't just celebrations. What it is it's looking at each part of the school and determining what are the expectations in that area, and asking kids and the adults in the area, what does it look like to be in an assembly, to be successfully in an assembly? What should that look like? And then those become the expectations, and we teach those and reteach them and reteach them, and sometimes it can be a little bit hard to remind staff, yes, when we come back from a break, we have to do it again. Long weekend, we've got to review the expectations for how to be in the classroom, in the hallway, and all of those things, because it's just the same reminder that all of us need to put your seatbelt on, because sometimes we don't. Sometimes we forget that we're supposed to be on, this new diet regimen, and we need somebody to remind us of exactly what that is. It's the same thing for kids. When we see that behavior isn't where it needs to be, and instead of assuming that kids are choosing that, it is assuming that they need to be retaught, that they may not have that down yet, and it's reteaching those things. So we think that we're going to see a lot with that. There's training that is going on with new staff, with principals, with social workers and counselors, to get us all on the same page, to make sure we all have the same understanding of what PBIS is and what it looks like in our schools. Even down to, we have done that because they've asked for it. Taher requested it. They've done a PBIS training for all of our Taher employees. So, and we'll eventually move on to our bus drivers as well. So it's good stuff.
One more thing.
Mhm.
So I just want to say I'm glad to hear that we're talking about culture and climate among teachers and staff, just like we're talking about it among students, because that's important. It's one thing for us to, try to reinforce good behaviors in our students and, teach them and kind of shift those behaviors. But if we as instructors and staff and et cetera are still, we're not our brains haven't been reprogrammed and rewritten, rewired to be less criminalizing in behaviors, then it just won't work. So I'm glad that we are not only focused on the culture and climate of our students, but particularly among our teachers and staff. So good job on that too.
Take that back to the team. Thank you.
Yeah,
Anything
Julie,
else?
Solid work. Thank you so very much. Elena?
Sorry, I
Yeah.
was looking at you reviewed and analyzed the exit interview data and identified trends. Did you find any that stuck out to you while you were working on that?
We saw a few things. The reason that people choose to exit, there's so many different reasons. There's a lot of people, they may move out of the area, they move to another job for various reasons. We did identify some trends and did create an action plan for that. So, and that went to, we have a district implementation team, and what they're doing is they're taking that information and the action plan that was created, and they're working on that implementation right now as well. So, and we'll continue to look at that data. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I am going to present today on instructional rounds. So there's been some discussion at the board table regarding high-quality teaching and learning, and I'd like to share with you what we've been doing in Jackson Public Secondary programs for the past few years. First, I'm just going to read a little synopsis of defining instructional rounds. Instructional rounding provides several benefits for educators, including fostering a collaborative culture, developing a shared vision of high-quality teaching, identifying and addressing common instructional challenges, improving pedagogical skills through peer observation, and promoting continuous professional development by allowing all teachers to learn from each other's practices across different classrooms, ultimately aiming to enhance student learning outcomes. So years ago, I was coached at Frost Elementary using a tool by Richard Dufour from an MDE representative. And so that was my first exposure on building professional learning communities and having conversations with teachers about best instructional practices, but even more importantly, affording our teachers an opportunity to learn from each other. So last year with Dr. Aaron Johnson, we continued what we called instructional rounding learning labs at middle school at Parkside. We were able to do this in English, math, science, social studies, world language, and maybe one more department. But Dr. Johnson brought to us specific rubric that we are looking at, because I've used a variety of different rubrics. And this one talked about affirming student identities, supportive and collaborative learning environment, caring and supportive educators, responsive teaching and learning practices, and equitable learning environments. And so at Parkside, they were able to discuss at a staff what their focal point wanted to be, knowing we're not going to be great in year one and all these things, but what's one thing we can all agree, and that was equitable learning environments is what middle school at Parkside chose to do. So one thing, again, many of our teachers, especially at middle school at Parkside, do have common planning time, and this is built into their daily schedule where they can meet and have discussions and talk about their learning targets. They can talk about student achievement data. They can talk about specific plans for specific students. In the past, we've used an instructional learning cycle where we really drill down to one target and we agree this is how we're going to teach, and there's always a variation from teacher to teacher, but then we come back and assess how did we do. And so this affords administration an opportunity to be in the classroom. As curriculum director, we're making decisions about curriculum and instruction and student achievement. So we can see these things firsthand. And I would say that's probably the most beneficial thing I've experienced as a new teacher many, many years ago, as an administrator, to have the ability to go into every classroom throughout the building and learn from our expert teachers and share that knowledge with those that are still progressing. This is non-evaluative, so we're coming from a lens of support. The administrator side of the lens, they're looking through an evaluative lens, and sometimes this can be intimidating. And we want to assure our teachers that we're coming in to support and to leverage each other as experts, because the more we can have teachers collaborating with one another, talking about what's working well and what areas am I trying to grow and improve upon, is definitely a best practice. So we tried to touch as many teachers as possible. Last year, middle school at Parkside. This year, we're currently at Jackson High School. But I also want to reference a mentor-mentee observation tool. It's required of our teachers in their early career, their first 3 years when they're on an IDP or an individualized development plan. We provide those opportunities for them to observe a mentor teacher. Every teacher is assigned a mentor teacher. This is a teacher who's been identified as highly effective or effective, and they spend time every week supporting, answering questions, finding out things that they didn't teach you in teacher school. And many of our teachers today come from a non-traditional pathway where this is very beneficial for their experience. The bottom line, I think, is you're not going to do this alone. We're building teacher capacity. We're building the support, which inevitably has positive outcomes for our students. And so there's a lot of research-based best practices, but this is part of what our administrators have learned through their principal organization of MASSP and MEMSPA. And so our administrators are continuously challenged to become instructional leaders within their buildings. And once we've done these instructional practices with our teaching staff, we share this information back with our administrators, not for evaluation purposes, but just so we're all working together and sharing. We're debriefing, providing feedback, providing support, communication, validation when things are working well, and just asking a lot of questions sometimes is another best practice. So I have two more shout outs before I conclude and answer any questions that you might have. One, I want to give Kelly Crum a shout out. Not only has she joined me the past couple years on these instructional rounds, but this weekend she had nominated and then awarded Pastor Lee Hampton the Dr. Martin Luther King Service Medal at Jackson College. Many of our middle school students and high school students were in attendance. Many of our middle school and high school students have transitioned to Jackson College and are leading with the Men of Merit and Sisters of Strength. So that was a huge highlight this weekend for our students to be in attendance and seeing the great things that are happening in our community, and to even see our alumni continue to grow and thrive at the next level. And I also want to give a shout out to our basketball program. Last night, they honored Pastor Hines with a Community Excellence Award. And we often talk about in athletics, obviously wins and losses are important, but stressing character development and service to the community is something that's bigger than a basketball game or other opportunities. So our students and our community were a part of that celebration as well. This is the 4th annual MLK basketball event, and I think that was very well received. So shout out to our students for their leadership. Years ago, we established with Pastor Lee and Kelly the Men of Merit and Sisters of Strength at middle school at Parkside. This continues at Parkside and Jackson High School, and again in partnership with Jackson College. So I think that is a fantastic opportunity for our students to identify themselves as leaders and have an opportunity to practice with others. So this concludes my report, and I will take any questions you may have at this time.
No question, but Kelly, you did an amazing job introducing Lee. It was nice to see you up there and making us proud for JPS.
Question for you, Jeremy. Equitable learning environments will be part of it, and then measurable, supportive, not evaluative, but are they measurable? But first, the equitable learning environments, what does that look like for the students, for an example?
Okay. So the definition here that our teachers at Parkside chose were equitable schools identity and challenge both structural and individual barriers for students that prevent them from engaging in their own learning. Teachers recognize and are able to interrupt historical patterns of marginalized that contribute to those barriers. So we have part of our evaluation tool is not just what is the teacher saying, but what are the students saying? And so we always talk to the students. There's half of our teachers, so the last one when we did science, there's 3 or 4 science teachers along with Kelly and myself. And we spread out throughout the classroom, and we're having conversations about, tell me what you're learning, tell me what's going well, tell me what you like about this class, tell me how you would do it different. And so there's a lot of discussion about what are students doing, what are they saying, and so that's the non-evaluative side. The evaluative side is, so I would say every 6 weeks we had a marking period, and every 12 weeks there's a report card. But that's an opportunity for our teachers to analyze their own data, and that's where how they use their profession and learning communities, and that's how they use their inquiry cycles with their administrators about how am I serving our boys, how am I serving our girls, how am I serving students with disabilities, how am I serving different minority groups. And so they're analyzing their data on a consistent basis and then goal setting based on that. So we've been doing that for 3 or 4 years now as well.
That sounds good. Can you give me like an example? So is it like, equitable learning environments, we've got, a student who doesn't have pencils all the time, so we're bringing pencils in. Like, what's the equitable part of it? So I get that, we're kind of having these conversations with the students, but, in a real, specific kind of way, for one example, what does that look like for the students, aside from the conversation that you all are having, which are awesome, but what else?
Probably access to classes. And so I can think about that as a student who is doing very well, but might be taking basic classes, that they're encouraged to take higher level classes to prepare them for whatever they choose to do next. That could be the Career Center, that could be the early college, that could be AP courses. And so we look at our student achievement through a lens and continue to push or encourage our students to take on a little bit more with supports in place as well.
All right, last question. I'm wondering too, because I know students learn, and maybe it's not being said because this is a given, you know what I mean? But I know that not everybody learns the same way, you know what I mean? So for me, I'm hands-on, I like to read, I like to ask a lot of questions, that's just how I learn. You know, are we recognizing that in the equitable environments for the teachers? Okay, well, I'm trying to create this equitable environment. If that means that this kid is always gonna be asking questions, or this kid needs to be walking around, I know we got those seats that they can bounce on, that's probably part of that whole thing. Is that also part of the whole, and maybe that's already given, that's a
Yeah.
given or not, or?
I'm glad you brought that up because I'm thinking about the bond, right? And we said we are going to have these 21st century learning environments. And we saw that in action. And we just had science recently. And I asked the students why they wear the lab coat because we had conversation and discussion about they have to wear safety goggles. And this is why you don't want to splash chemicals. But there was no real reason why they had to have a lab coat other than to feel special and to feel like a scientist. And our teachers use that verbiage to our students, encouraging them that here are different career pathways that you can take as a result of. We watched a forensics class in action, it was phenomenal. We watched a coding class in action. There was a lot of energy and passion, and kids were creating things. And so I think about our different learning spaces and movement. I think the number one the two things that I hear is I want to have fun and I don't want to sit here all day long. And so we watched transitions and movement activities that were naturally or purposefully planned. And the other thing is social emotional wellness. I think our teachers are very in tune to how grades impact student wellness. And we had a lot of discussion and they are doing a lot of great things to make sure students are receiving a grade, which is feedback, in a positive manner and not a manner in which they feel defeated if they got not what they had anticipated. And there's other opportunities to continue their learning.
I love it, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy, for the updates. Can you just discuss a little bit more about the mentorship? So for a teacher that is assigned a mentee, you said they meet weekly. Can you describe those meetings? Is it an hour, a half hour? Are they observing the new teachers? Just a little.
Yes, I'll give you a little
Snapshot.
snippet. So
Yeah.
it's actually a documentation because it's agreed upon between our association. So it's 30 minutes a week. And if I'm a teacher that has the same common planning time, it's pretty easy for us to get together during that planning time. Other teachers may have a mentor in a different building, and that works for them. And so we want to make sure it's not just assigned, but they have a choice of which partner teacher or mentor teacher works for them. And so there's recommended for professional development. So sometimes it was gone from my classroom. I could be going to DEI professional development. I could be going to CPI professional development. I could make a recommendation in my improvement plan that I'm going to go to a conference that is for science teachers or whatever it may be. So trust is a huge part of building a relationship between a mentor and a mentee. And this is, again, not information that is to be given back to the administrator for evaluation purposes, but it's to be, what are those targeted support areas where you've asked for assistance and been given assistance consistently? And so trust is real big to establish between our teachers, that they're there in a supportive position and not a boss or an evaluator type. And one final piece to the mentor-mentee, yes, we do provide full day subs and half day subs for them to go observe not just one teacher, but multiple teachers and looking for certain things. Am I trying to improve on classroom management? Teachers typically have 3 areas of focus that they're working on, something that they chose in addition with their evaluating administrator, that they can say, this teacher's an expert in this area, I want to go watch and see how they do it. And then we talk about that with our instructional coaches. Our instructional coaches are also there for support and saying, okay, now that you've observed these things, what kind of things are you going to try next week? Because we'll go to a PD, but if we don't bring anything back, then it's like, what did you go for? So we try to follow up on what are you trying, and understanding it's a process, right? You don't see it once and go in there. And so it's just a year-long process. And like I said, 3 to 4 years for support for our IDP teachers. You're welcome.
All right. Kelly?
Oh, bless you, baby. Good evening, everyone. I just want to say that I'm thankful to be in this spot, to be in this space, and these folks that are to my left and to my right has embraced everything that evolves around diversity, equity, inclusion. There's not one person that I'm sitting with that doesn't call, bring me in discussion, and I appreciate that because we're doing some really great work. And I want to share the progress that we made in advancing equity at Jackson Public Schools and how our district's equity policy is coming to life in each of our schools. So one key component that I had been working on, and I talked to Superintendent Bill when I first came, was that I wanted to create equity teams because I'm only one person. I need folks to help me champion the work that we're doing. And so not just as a district-wide commitment, I wanted to make sure with the help of the team to make it a focus in every building. So that has been happening. And what each building has done is tailored their equity goal to uniquely meet the students, the families, and the staff in their building. So these goals are publicly displayed on each school individual web page. I believe that Maryland had asked for that to be put up there along with Shalonda, and we made sure that we did that because transparency is important. We want people to know what we're doing. And plus it reinforces accountability on our part as well and invites the community to come in, look, to see that the goals that we're doing are achievable. So I encourage you to explore our web pages to see the thoughtful and targeted work happening in our school district. So with those equity leads that are in each building to support that is that each building has an equity lead liaison. And so these individuals help promote our equity work. And so it's been amazing because we come together once a month with those leads to collaborate. We're going to share our successes, our challenges, our best practices. We're going to monitor and review the data that we have and then provide support, resources, tools, professional development as they see needed in their building. And I'm going to use Parkside as an example because I want to share some of the things that are happening, and hopefully this will answer some of your questions, is that their equity goal is on fostering a school culture where every student and staff member feel safe, respected, and acknowledged for their successes, individuality, and their culture. So that goal is being addressed and targeted through promoting inclusivity and belonging. So each building needs to come up with 3 action steps. And so we're getting there because this equity thing that we're doing is a journey. And so what they decided to do is everyone's name is important. So they decided they're going to welcome students by names. And this is how they're doing that. Every staff member at Parkside is committed to addressing each student by name daily in a positive and affirming way. So who's responsible for that? Everyone that's in that building, that's the staff, from the support from the administrators and the equity team as we're following up. They started this initiative in September, actually September 16th, and they're going to continue this throughout the year. So how do we measure that? Measuring is very important, right? We'll make sure that we're doing it right, or if we're doing it wrong, we want to know. So we asked the students to complete surveys to share their experiences, if they felt like they were recognized, valued by their staff. And the survey data showed that that was positive results, confirming that we need to continue to do this. Everyone wants to hear something good from their teacher, from the custodian that's in the hallway. The next action step that they're doing is representation in visual. So Parkside is ensuring that bulletin boards, classroom displays, instructional material, and posters reflect the racial, ethnic, and cultural diversity that we have there at Parkside. Again, everyone that is there is responsible for this goal, staff and administration. This work is beginning trimester 2, and the students will be surveyed to gauge if they see representation in their school, whether it's in the materials that are around them. And so we believe that welcoming students by names, ensuring representation, is something that is, of course, I believe, and they believe that is positive, but we believe in the feedback. So I want to just give a shout out to Parkside and share their example of some things that they're doing, and I'm helping guide them through that. And so again, each building has their own goals. I encourage you to look at those. If there's more questions or information around the work that is being done, I am more than happy to have a sit-down conversation, email, bring you in. I would like to also eventually bring some of those staff in so they can share with you some of the things that they are doing. I think it's important for them to tell their story. I'm going to share it as well. But the equity work that JPS is doing, I'm grateful to be a part of this journey, keeping it at the forefront with trainings. They'll say I'm visible, I'm in the buildings, and just trying to be a resource when it comes to the work that we're doing. It's challenging work. I'm up against a lot sometimes, just from the political climate. But JPS has a charge. I look at the students that we represent. I want them to feel good about JPS. And so any type of diversity initiatives that we can bring forward, I want to champion them, but the work can't come just from me by myself. So I appreciate, again, the team that I have here and that they bring me into the spaces so that we can continue to make the work happen. So this is a shared responsibility that comes with collaboration and intentionality. And so just wanted to share that equity teams, those leads with you, especially for our new board members, so that you can see what the work that is happening. But again, if there's any questions beyond today that you go home and you think about, don't hesitate. Please reach out to me and I'll be glad to give you more information about what is happening when it comes to our equity work here in the district. And that's it. Thank you.
So, no question today, but I know, look at that, you know what I'm saying? You done got off, you know what I mean? But, I want to say, so baby steps, but I absolutely love the idea of every student in the school, having their name called or, spoken to by name. And I love that you even mentioned that, even our, maintenance staff, being committed to that work as well, because everybody matters, everybody, from the principal to to everybody in the district. Because I can imagine myself as a 7th and 8th grader at Parkside, shy and really blending in and just being lost in that space. But the idea that a teacher noticing me enough to say my name and even comment on something special about me that they're seeing, today at 43, I appreciate when somebody does do that, when somebody does that. So I love that. Like I said, it has to start from somewhere. We have to start somewhere. And as we build those things in, that changes the culture. That starts the culture change. It doesn't have to be all these big things, but if we're not willing to start somewhere and then understand the power of that small step is small but mighty. Every student having their name, being said, every student, somebody saying this is something special about you. I love the way your shirt looks today. Your hair looks nice today. It looks like you got it cut over like whatever. Just being noticed. That does build belonging. So good job. I love that. Like I said, small but mighty. I think that's powerful.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Thank you, Kelly, for the update. That's amazing work. I did have one question. You speak to the team, all of you all sit represented right there. Do you find that teachers are comfortable to approach you, or is it they go through the administrator, the building principal, and then it's channeled to you?
That's a great question. I try to be approachable to everyone. I'm always smiling and trying to help. I do have teachers, and I make sure that I let them know, don't hesitate, reach out to me. So I feel as though, yes, they do reach out. But they can go through their administrator, and that has happened before. I'm not saying that they haven't, but I am available. I walk in the buildings, I stop in the classrooms, but I speak to the teachers. Those are TAs, our parapros. Those are the ones that are in the trenches, right? And so I want to make sure. And so actually, I'm doing a PD on DEI, microaggressions, all of those things that are coming in play with our new teachers, because I want our new teachers, our new parapros, our new TAs to know me. And I tell them, I'm just a phone call away, email away, just stop in. So I try to make myself approachable, so I don't want anyone to feel like they can't reach out to me and ask me anything, right? I'm here to help with this equity journey. So yes, the answer is yes, yes, and yes, they do reach out.
All right, Chris, you get to close us out here.
Okay. So first, I just wanted to welcome our new trustees to the board. We're excited to have you, and please use me as a resource if you'd like to meet with me one-on-one or together. If you have questions about the district or things that would help you feel more connected, feel free to reach out to me. I can be a resource for you at any time. So having said that, I also wanted to acknowledge Brant and his staff. He is our feature JTV segment this month, and we did a whole segment on what our food service provides, what education they provide, what they look like in the schools, and some of the events that they've done with our kids during the day. So that is running right now, and you'll see that on our social media pages, and I encourage you to watch it. These are fairly long interviews that we do. There are 8 more scheduled that have been ready to go, and they'll feature on a number of other things like our Jackson High Music Department. We've already featured our HR. We have Montessori coming up. We have Hunt coming up. There's just a lot of them coming up, and I encourage you to watch those. They are longer videos meant to really kind of delve into a subject matter a little bit more than a 30-second commercial would. So also just get ready to start seeing all of our information coming up for Kindergarten Roundup. That is the time we won't see Julie and I doing anything but Kindergarten Roundup. So, and the other thing I just really wanted to touch base with you on, we're about to embark on the work for the bond in November. And it is a very organized plan that we do. Both Michelle, Jeff, and I think Cheryl, and everyone here except for, I think, Kelly has been a part of our bond. So it's a very organized way that we move to get community input. The first letter that you saw went out to over a little more than 200 people in the community to join us for the bond planning committee meetings. And these bond planning committee meetings are to look at the work that you elected and voted on for TMP, our architects, and Triangle, our construction folks, to do the work to get to the point where they could give us suggestions and thoughts. So for example, there was a facilities assessment done of all our facilities. There were just, they evaluated everything in our buildings, what needs to be done, what we can wait on, those kind of things. And then our TMP also worked with every one of our principals and sat down and talked with them about what they'd like to see in their buildings in terms of either architectural or in terms of programming. So this first meeting that's coming up February 13th, and there'll be a series of them, there are 4 in which we get together with this larger group of folks in the committee who will be on this committee who are interested in helping us form what the bond should look like. What should we do with the money that we are asking? How does the bond work? And so if you haven't been a part of it before, it might seem a little bit overwhelming, but I can promise you at this first meeting, you'll start to understand what your role as a board member is. And a lot of it is for you to be present and learn about what your community is saying to you about what they'd like to see done with the dollars. For example, when we did the bond in we really started in 2015, and then we moved into 2016 because the community really came at us and said, you're not doing enough. We want more. We want to see this bigger. And so we went back to the drawing table. So we get a lot of information from these bond committee meetings. And then based on those bond committee meetings, after we've formed what we would like to ask the community for in the bond, we then take them out to full-fledged community engagement sessions where we invite the entire community to come out and see what our bond committee planning committee came up with, what we'd like to do with the dollars and how it's going to look, and then get our feedback from the community. Like, are we on the right track, right? Is this where we need to be? And so I think you'll find TMP, we worked with them on the last bond, and they are phenomenal about helping and working with our communities to get the answers that we want, to hear the feedback that we want. There's a lot of opportunity for people to speak at these meetings. They're very comfortable meetings, and they're meant to include our community in this decision, because after all, we're going to be asking them to vote on these dollars. And then typically at the end, what happens is then the bond planning committee will appoint some folks to come and make a presentation to you. And hopefully you've been engaged all the entire time, and you'll know what what the plan will look like, what we plan to do with our bond. And then that's when you guys approve it for us to move forward with it. So it is a couple month process, and you'll hear us talk a lot about it. And I encourage you to be at these meetings, to support us and to work with the folks that are on the bond committee, planning committee. And if you have any questions about how a bond works or what we've done in the past, we're happy to share that information with you. We have a lot of really nice things that we did that's very organized, and we know how the plan went. But sometimes you might see this and maybe some of it doesn't make much sense to you. Like, how did we get to this point? Why did you talk about this? Trust me, Michelle and I can remember every minute of every second of the bond that we did. So I just encourage you to be a part of it and be interested in it and voice your opinion and work with our community and listen to what they're saying and kind of enjoy the process. It is pretty interesting if you've ever been through it. So it really was enlightening for us the last time we went through it, and I look forward to doing it again. Although Jeff promised me I'd never have to do another bond again, but he lied. So here we are. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or whatever.
Chris, could you just tell me the name of the construction company again?
It is Triangle.
Chris, you said that you already have a group of individuals that are a part of this planning committee. Approximately how many?
We invited over 200 to this committee. If there's someone that you would like us to consider to invite, we certainly would be welcome any names that you want to send our way. Perhaps they're already on our list.
Okay.
But if not, we really compiled these from people that we saw who were interested, who like JPS, right, and want to see us move forward. And so lots of community members, lots of our principals are on that list. Our teachers are on that list. Our parents are on those lists. And one of the greatest things about our parent liaisons is that we now have better contact with at our parent liaisons reaching out to parents that maybe wouldn't necessarily be a part of this, that have been asked to be on it. Certainly it's a commitment, right? So we always have to remember that a lot of times when we're asking people to make up a commitment of 4 different meetings, that they may or may not be able to do that. But we really try to be as accommodating as possible. So if there are names or people that you think, oh, I should make sure they're on this list, feel free to just send me an email.
Thank you.
One more question, well, one more statement, and not for you, Chris, because I just didn't get to tell Julie. I would like to see the trends in the exit interviews, and you can send it to the whole board or whatever, but I want to see what the trends are, or whoever. Is that you, Jessica? Thank you.
All right. Hey, Chris, we're not going to make them come all summer. I think the 2018 bond, we made that group, they showed up all July. It is a process, and our expectation is this group will meet multiple times. They'll take feedback from the community, as Chris said, and then they will present to the Board of Education their recommendation for what we should do as a district. And once they do that, the timeline for that will be in May. And then the board will make a determination from there. We'll submit a Treasury app in early June. We'll get language for the ballot over the summer. So there's lots of kind of steps that we do along the way before we actually ever start really getting out and talking about what a campaign for a bond will look like. And that really will kick off in the fall. But just kind of for those who have been through it and for those that haven't, I would encourage you just kind of reach out to Chris and go, where are we at? Keep asking questions. There's a lot going on. So I hope you'll be able to make at least some of the meetings and take a look and see, how we do interact with the community and how we take those stakeholder pieces into account, because they're the ones, as Chris said, that really kind of drove the discussion last time and helped us form, what is or what was the 2018 bond.
And also get your walking shoes ready for October because we go door to door to talk to everybody, so.
Yep, lots to do. And before we conclude the superintendent's report, I'm just going to remind the board that at our December board meeting, Marcus amended the budget. And unfortunately, we're further behind or not in line with where we would like to be budget-wise. And we saw a couple of different things kind of contribute to that. And it is going to be vital that we come to an agreement as a Board of Education on where our budget needs to be by June of 2025, so this coming year, for the following year. Right now, our budget is projected to dip about $4 million. We were originally anticipating that we were going to dip less than that. We were going to dip down into 2, and there was one scenario where we might have dipped a little over $1 million, depending on some of the funding that was coming in or expected to come in. Obviously, we didn't see, those dollars materialize at the state level, and so we're kind of along for the ride on some of this. But we need to plan now, or begin planning now, for budgeting, and it will be my recommendation that the board direct me as the superintendent to right-size the budget and bring a balanced budget to the board. I don't believe we can dip $4 million again next year. If we were to do that, we would find ourselves very quickly in a less than positive financial outlook. And certainly, we've got a wonderful fund balance today. We had anticipated using those dollars over a period of years. You've heard me kind of share that projection moving forward. I said we could dip about $6 million. And, if we did 3 1 year, 2, and then 1, we would kind of be able to scale ourselves home. And, the fear right now is obviously that we're dipping too fast, too quick. And if we're not careful, we would be out of money in 2 years. And so my goal is to ask the board for that direction. And again, I would ask you to direct me to balance the budget or bring you a balanced budget at the June meeting. So I'll be looking for a conversation around that. Cheryl?
Is there any update on the potential for a mid-year bump from the state?
I haven't seen anything. Marcus, have you seen anything on the listservs? It has not crossed my desk that anything's being worked on at this time.
I haven't seen that anything's passed the House and made it to her desk anyways.
I think the one area we were kind of expecting, and it's sitting on a table somewhere right now, is the increased district cost for healthcare that we saw with the rewrite of PA 152. And that got held up in some, we'll call it legal process between the House and the governor's desk. And I believe it's still sitting there, but it was approved by both chambers in December. It just was awaiting a governor's signature, but I think there's some legal language they were looking at in there. If that were to take place, obviously, that'd be a boon for our staff because they would pay less for health insurance. But the dollars it's not as if health insurance is going to cost less. That would simply be an increased cost for the district. And so that would be money that we had not budgeted for or intended to budget for. And I think Marcus and I had looked at that as somewhere in the neighborhood of about $500,000. So it's not inconsiderable. Again, there's not going to be one way that we balance a budget. There's not going to be one way that we can solve this challenge, this riddle. I would go back and share with you that we got a lot of dollars through the federal government to help bring us out of COVID. We invested those dollars largely in people, and we invest those dollars, save those dollars in order to be able to extend those supports for as long as possible. It's simply going to come to light that we will not be able to extend them as long as I had originally projected based on some of the changes that we've seen take place this year.
Another question for you, Jeff.
Yes, please.
So I feel like we said in December that there would be, I don't know, just more information at each meeting around just the whole budget stuff in general. Did I understand that incorrectly or?
No, you didn't. And so I guess the first step I need is that direction, candidly, to balance the budget and have it presented by December, and/or tell me how much the board is comfortable dipping, because we build a budget based on the board's direction. Once that's in place, what will happen is I will be bringing every month pieces of how we're balancing the budget. I won't be able to bring to you, well, we balanced the budget in February. It really won't be that way. I'll bring a plan for how we balance a portion of the budget or how we tackle a portion of this challenge in February. I'll be back in March and do much the same thing. And I'll be back again in April and in May with the work that we're doing, so that by June, we've got this in hand. And it really it's going to take that time. It's not something, again, that you can sit down and whip up in 30 days and have this done, because again, it's not, we would like to solve most of our challenges through attrition, right? Like that would be the natural, people retire at the end of the year and we're able to move forward. And that was originally the plan. We kind of hired intentionally to expect that. But again, like I said, when you see a budget that Marcus and I looked at and said, we really could dip less than 3 million for this fiscal year, and now all of a sudden it went the other way and we're going to dip more than 4 million, those are challenges that we don't feel comfortable with. So we're coming to you. That's why we amend the budget multiple times a year, and we'll amend it again in March, because we're tackling things today within our current budget. But again, it's not going to be one thing that balances a budget. It's how you look at the whole picture. So the answer is yes, there's lots of things coming, but it starts with this board's determination of where's the comfort level, or what's the goal for the board, for me, for June.
Okay. Thank you for explaining that. So it sounds like, and maybe that should have been on here, I don't know, as an action item, something for us to, so that you could begin that process. But I guess I was under the impression that we would at least have enough information to even start the process. So sounds like that's not coming as a presentation of some sort each month. But what I would like is for us to be able to have a conversation, you and I, so that I can better understand this whole process. And, I have lots of questions, which I was planning to just ask when we had that presentation. But we will have to get creative, because I know we tried and our schedules didn't align, but they'll have to be after 6 now because of my schedule. But I would like to ask a lot of questions so that I can understand what this whole process looks like. I want to know, what do budget cuts look like, as far as like what areas all can be cut, what areas can we not cut, I just want to know all the details, because, our community needs to be aware. I would love to hear the community's involvement or their thoughts as well on, prioritize this, yes, cut that, don't cut. Like, I would love to hear that, but I feel like I need some foundational information before I can even suggest areas that I would like to see cut or not. You know what I mean? It's just in general. So let's figure out how to make that happen where I can have those questions answered,
Sure. I guess let me first, I'm not going to ask the board for areas to cut.
Madam President,
I
could I interject?
Yeah,
And
Mr.
just
Yes.
offer a motion before we dialogue and debate this I think what the superintendent is looking for is a motion to direct the superintendent to present a plan to balance the 2024-25 fiscal year budget.
That's correct.
And bring those recommendations, working with the administration, bring those recommendations for review by this board at the next meeting.
Is that correct?
So I would make that motion. If there's support for it,
Support.
then we can debate the motion or not debate it, and then review those proposals at the next meeting. Because I think what you're saying is we don't have those yet, so we would come to the next meeting, presumably with those, if the motion passes to direct the superintendent to do so.
That would be exactly correct. So if
As a discussion item for next month.
well, the first thing we've got is a motion to direct me to
got
balance
a
the
second.
budget and bring a plan for that to the next meeting. So that's the discussion on the table. And if there's any more discussion on that piece of it, then that will be the the target for next month.
So I do
So-
have some discussion.
Yeah, so we have a motion, we have a second, and then, yep, Marilyn supported, and then trustee Hamilton has more comments.
Discussion, yep. So I think I just mentioned that, it looked like we didn't have that we should have probably had it as an action item. So thanks, Derek, for, understanding what I said and then making it a motion so that we could then, have the conversation or have that next month. But it doesn't sound like next month we're gonna be getting, because you just said that it's not a 1-month thing. So what's this look like? What's coming back next month?
So next month, I'm going to kind of outline what I anticipate will take place between now and June, and where those cuts are going to come from. What is that going to look like? What's our procedure? How have we worked on this? What's the involvement of our bargaining units? What's the involvement of our associations? We are a people business, and so candidly, I think everybody understands this. When we say cuts, it directly impacts people. And there's a process that we've used in the past that the associations agree and have bargained into their contracts how we do this. So some of this is, again, it's not, well, I like this teacher or I don't like that teacher. It's really very cut and dry. But we're going to talk about kind of how that takes shape and what that is, because there are areas that we can cut that may be as far away from the classroom as possible. And we try to do that. Kind of put this in perspective, if you were to go back to 2019, JPS employed about just under 500 direct hires. Now, I'm not talking about contracted workers, about 500 direct hires. And today we're just under 600 direct hires. And we used a lot of those people as supports to kind of move us through COVID. And we have anticipated that we will not be able to maintain 600 people moving forward. Now, does that mean that I'm going to come back here and say, well, my recommendation is we cut 100 people? Absolutely not. But we are going to have to do some restructuring and some things in order to be able to balance that budget. And there are some things, you asked the questions, what are those areas that we can't cut? Well, I mean, I'll use an example I used when I was talking with the staff. We got to turn the lights on. Everybody got a little chilly in here a little earlier. We got to pay the heating bill. So some of those things are things that we anticipate are going to go up next year. We're going to have increases in healthcare costs next year. We're going to have, there's things that we're going to run into that we know won't be cuts that we're able to implement. It's funny because you think, well, gosh, we've got the whole budget to deal with, and we really don't. About 85% of our budget, plus or minus, is really people in some fashion, form, or other. And then it's that 15% it feels like, well, gosh, why don't you just dip into that 15% and figure out how to cut all that? But again, when you look and go, well, I got to provide fuel for the buses, or I got to provide lights for the buildings, or I got to provide heat, things like that. Those are not areas that you can necessarily dip into and cut. So, but I'll be bringing back a plan, a recommendation, and I'm going to show you kind of month by month what you can expect from me, or where those pieces are laid out. And we can talk about that next month, but that's the direction if the motion passes.
And just a reminder, I do want us to still have a conversation. about it.
No, Keisha, I'll send you an email. We'll try to get something on the calendar. And that, by the way, goes for any of the other board members, whether new or not. If you've got questions on what's the process, how did we do this before, what does this look like? And, we've kind of lived through this Goldilocks period where first time in my career, we had more dollars than because of the federal money coming in. But I became an administrator in 2003, and for the vast majority of my career, it was do more with less. And I feel like every year we were cutting. And Ms. Simonetti, I remember when I came on the board, you and I talked early on about how do we balance the budget, how do we build up our fund balance, because we were borrowing every year simply to make expenses. And that put us in harm's way, where we were below 5% fund balance and things along those lines. So the board was very intentional about making certain that we put ourselves in a positive place. And it's a long, hard process to try to get back. So I kind of look at it, this way. It's like anything else. It'll be easier for us to address it proactively on the front side than to try to be addressing it from the other side where we've got to find money we don't have. So thank you very much. I think you have a motion on the table and a second.
And a second.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next month. All right, we are on the consent agenda, so if I could have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda passes. We have no citizens to address the board tonight. Is this a first? I think this is a first. All right. Okay, you already addressed it. All right, action 9 was removed. Any board comments? Board comments?
I'll start. It's great to be back. Very informative first meeting. And for those of you who know me, I'm involved in the ambassador dinner every year. And so now I'm making my spiel because I would like to see us as a board, again, donate a basket to the ambassador dinner. They have decided to go away from a theme every year and really just focus on the district coming together. And traditionally, we've always done a chocolate basket. So if everyone wants to stick with chocolate, that works for me. The dinner is March 7th. So what I am asking is for every board member to donate an item to the basket. And if you want me to do the shopping and you want to give me some money, I can do that. So we only have one meeting before March 7th. So that February 18th, if you could bring your donation, I'll nudge you and remind you. And if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.
So welcome back, folks, from your holiday. I really hope that it was relaxing and that you had lots of time doing whatever it is that you like to do to find happiness. I'm looking forward to a strong finish of the school year. I'm also really hoping that the community will focus in and pay attention to the budget cuts that are coming. I can imagine that some cuts may have to happen that not everybody would be happy with, but if you've had opportunity to have your voice heard, I think you might feel better about whatever cuts are going to be taking place. And also because if you were hearing your voice, some cuts that might take place may not take place because we've heard from you. So I'm really hoping that the community will weigh in and just, focus in on that. But again, welcome back from the break, and I hope it was relaxing. The last thing I want to say is that I will probably be coming in late at times because I'm working out of town now. So know that my commitment and dedication and how serious I take this position is not it's not in question. It's just that, sometimes the 94 does not work with my schedule. Sometimes construction companies and traffic decide that, I might not be able to get here on time. Just know that it's not me. It's something else going on. But welcome back though.
Welcome to the new members. Welcome back, everybody, to 2025, and look forward to working with the rest of this board as we figure out some of the challenges ahead of us.
Anyone else?
I just got a quick, I love what I heard today from every one of you out there. A lot of positive that's going towards 2025. I would like to hear more and more every single meeting. That's the only reason why I'm here. Okay, so let's make that happen. And I am part of that team too. So I will do whatever I can from my side to get a kickstart. Okay, and again, congratulations to the new officers and new board members, and for the folks who are here to listen to us.
So I want to welcome the new board members and for Cheryl Simonetti to come back. And I'm totally impressed with this JPS Partnership District update. Wow, our teachers are really great. The TAs, the parapros, administrators, the principals, everyone's working so well together. And I just want to I told Kelly Crum personally, your speech at the MLK banquet, it wasn't a speech, it was an introduction, and it was just amazing. And you are really good at public speaking. So it's a shout out to Kelly. So anyways, thank you everyone for coming and listening tonight, and stay warm.
I guess I'm saying something. How exciting. Thank you to all of the team members who have done so much to help me get my feet on the ground, answer my questions, make me feel welcome. I really appreciate it. I am so encouraged by everything that I have learned, everything that I have heard. And I just want to say to all of the people who are in our buildings, working with our students, I know the last few weeks are a heavy lift, and we appreciate what you're doing for those students. So thank you very much.
Welcome, Cheryl. Welcome, Suba. Welcome, Elena. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for our first meeting for our school year 2025. We're thrilled to have new voices, new perspectives, fresh lens. Looking forward to moving our district forward with positivity. And again, I appreciate the support of the board as voting me as president. Looking forward to working close with Vice President and each of you. So feel free to give us your ideas, and we can work collaboratively to improve our student outcomes.
All right, everybody, I'll just close for comment, and only just to remind everybody, we are closed tomorrow due to inclement weather. We do have a threshold. I know everybody asks, well, Jeff, where are we at? Why do we close for heat, or why do we close for cold? And in the county, we close at -20, feels like. It is expected to be colder tomorrow morning than it was this morning, if that's possible. We don't dance around. I mean, I'll be fair with you, if it's going to be -17, -18, -19, I don't know where or on what block it might be -20, but we don't want our students out in that. We don't want anybody to be exposed to that. So we are closed tomorrow. We are going to have some optional practices, voluntary, non-mandatory practices tomorrow, and I think athletics has pushed that out. And because we've already run into one challenge, I think Skyline is working with us to potentially have a basketball game, girls basketball, tomorrow night. And we're still working on that with them, last I heard. So pay attention, Facebook and Messenger, and we'll get that information updated and out to everybody.
Thank you, Jeff. Our calendar for calendar items. So February 18th, 2025 will be our next regular board meeting here in the JHS Media Center at 6 p.m. And then March 7th, 2025, the JHS Ambassador Auction, and there will be more details to follow. And then adjournment. Anyone like to
So moved.
support from anyone? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Meeting has been adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Nailed it.
We will see you next